This is Module 3, Think Like a Futurist, in the Emerging Future Technology Issues and Trends MOOC. In this module, it is filled with resources, and even more resources. And in this video, I'm going to guide you through the components in this module so that you don't miss any of the great materials that have been put in here. There's a section that is focused on terms and definitions, back to the history of future studies, a review, looking at notable futurists, both past and present, futurist career possibilities, Futurist Organizations, those to really know about that are dealing with future studies and foresight. There's an interview with a futurist that I think you'll find interesting, and there are some general resources on what it means to think like a futurist. There is a goal for this module and several objectives. I won't read it in detail. This is available within the MOOC and the module, but the overall goal is to gain a solid working knowledge of future studies and what it means to think like a futurist, so that you'll know what futurism is, a brief history of futurism and future studies, notable futurists, the methodologies that they use. So we're going to spend time in this module looking at the planning methods and strategies that are used by futurists and the terms that they use in their planning. So there are 5 different objectives, from being able to identify and understand a number of futuring methodologies, the process that may work best for them, and you'll find a lot of this in the terms and definitions section of the module. You'll also examine and develop a basic understanding of the various techniques and processes used by futurists to plan for change. Once again, this is in the terms and definitions section of the module. There is a section on notable futurists where you will have an introduction to some of the ones who are more prominent. It is not exhaustive, but it's to get you started in your exploration. A sampling of careers that you might consider as a futurist in your current disciplines, along with some futurist skills. And looking at the overall picture of future studies. To earn a badge for Module 3, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. There is a posting and 2 responses to 2 different discussion topics, one on futuring processes and methods, and one on notable futurists. And there's a quiz. You need to earn a passing grade of 70%. 7 out of 10 questions, and a big hint, the correct answers to the questions are embedded in this presentation. So listen carefully and you will be able to get 100% on the quiz. Module 3, Terms and Definitions, has a lot of resources, and I have a couple of slides that outline what is in there. There is information about different organizations that are dedicated to future studies. One is the Association of Professional Futurists. There's a website here that you can go to, and they offer a specific definition of what a futurist is. Now note, there are many different definitions, similar in many aspects, but different nuances on what is a futurist. So the Association of Professional Futurists says that or defines a futurist to use foresight to describe what could and perhaps should happen in the future. And forecasts are made by using 5 processes. Once again, note that futurists have different processes for planning for the future, for making forecasts. So the Association of Professional Futurists has 5 different processes, and these are explained in detail in the module. There's framing, scanning, describing, planning, and visioning. And one definition that they use for scanning involves studying the broad trends shaping our world, and they use the acronym STEEP, S-T-E-E-P, to categorize the trends. So in Module 2, we examined lots of different resources that you should monitor in order to keep track of the trends, and there are 5 specific trends that the Association of Professional Futurists notes. There is societal trends, so society, technology, economic, environmental, and political. So that is one way to remember the STEEP acronym: society, technology, economic, environment, and political. Also in Module 3 are some resources for you with both planning techniques, some of the futurists and the organizations, and what their methods are. For instance, Sohail Inayatullah has a book out on the 6 pillars of future studies. He also recently has causal layered effects, and there was a TED Talk that he did in May that also focuses on future studies, but a little bit different from the 6 pillars of future studies. So you may want to check out both of them and keep in mind that he is a noted futurist. One of the sites that has lots of information that is very useful is ForLearn. It is an excellent online guide that I highly recommend. It's European-based, and it gives different perspectives. It gives a fabulous chart of all the different planning methods that are used by futurists. Some of the planning methods that are identified on the ForLearn site are environmental scanning and monitoring, a SWOT analysis, and if you aren't familiar with SWOT, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you look at each of these factors from an organizational standpoint, both internal to the organization and external. On modeling and simulation, gaming, expert panels, Delphi methods, backcasting, road mapping, and scenario building. Once again, this is not the full contingent of planning methods used by futurists, but it is some of the ones that are identified by ForLearn. There's also a section in Module 3 on general resources, and you can get some interesting facts there about future studies, such as knowing that the University of Houston was the first to offer a program in the United States in future studies or foresight in 1975, and it is one of the premier programs now that is both available as a hybrid and in person. And the interview with the futurist is a graduate, the interview is not, but the individual who I interviewed is a graduate of the University of Houston. You'll also find information in the general resources area, such as the 2014 Pew Research Center and Smithsonian Magazine survey. They found that more than just over half of the United States population, 51%, of adults in the United States think that computers will be able to create works of art better than humans within the next 50 years. So check out those resources as well in Module 3. There's also a section on noted futurists. You'll get to be familiar with some of the names that are publishing, that are producing materials, that are consultants. One is Satwant Kaur, who is the First Lady of Emerging Technologies. She currently serves at HP as the Chief Technologist. And you might be interested in a book that she wrote, Transitioning Embedded Systems to Intelligent Environments, A Journey Through Evolving Technologies. So here's a link to get more information from that. She's also listed in the Noted Futurists section of Module 3, as well as lists of other noted futurists that you can explore. One particular book that you might be interested in, Recent Developments in Foresight Technology Methodologies, Complex Networks and Dynamic Systems, Volume 1. In particular, if you have access to this book, it's available in print and electronic. The introduction is very relevant, as well as Chapter 5, New Emerging Issues and Wild Cards as Future Shakers and Shapers. Chapter 14, Scenario Planning as a Tool in Foresight Exercises. And Chapter 15, Foresight, Scenarios, and Sustainable Development. So this just gives you another viewpoint, another focus on future studies. Future Fest was an event that was held in the past, in the not too distant past. Here's a link to view different futurists talking about their foresight, their analysis. And then once again, the Forlearn website. Another link to the specific page in this website on methodology methods used by futurists. This is just a small subset of forecasting techniques, but you can do polling, consulting with experts through groups, through the Delphi method. These are terminologies that if you aren't familiar with, you can gain access to more information in Module 3 about each of these. Gaming, models and simulations. Visioning was a process and term coined in 1962 with future workshops. And then preferred futuring. The Apollo space program had a desired outcome, a preferred future vision, and then looking at the ways to attain that future vision, the steps that you need to take to get there. So it's proactive planning. Backcasting is similar to the preferred visioning or futuring, where you start with where you want to be, what your vision is for the future, and then you work backwards so that this has to happen before that can be developed, and it's a backward planning, but it's backcasting. You have the vision in front of you, and then you make accommodations and plans so that you can get to that point. There's some links here to websites. I won't go into them now, but Thomas Fry, a famous futurist, has backcasting scenarios for understanding the future. I'd recommend you take a look at that. And Natural Step is a website that also focuses on backcasting as a futuring technique. It almost sounds that they're at odds with one another to use backcasting to predict or to make forecasts, but it's another strategy. Some additional resources to highlight, they're not the only ones. Once again, the Forlearn website has a list of international think tanks and other organizations that you might be interested in. Last May, a library-based future scenarios book was released by Jeffrey Schnapp and Matthew Battles. Both of them are at the Harvard University Meta Lab. I would suggest that you investigate the Harvard Meta Lab to see what kinds of future-oriented studies that they are doing. Here's a link to the book, and I was part of a panel last year at the Future of Libraries conference in Boston, where we challenged the participants to develop a list of changes that libraries can make in the short term and the future to embrace technology and to engage the community. So Jeffrey Schnapp was part of this leading the discussion. So that is the kind of material that you'll find in his book. And there are some scenarios, too, of what the library might look like in the future. Now, the Minnesota Library Futures Initiative was developed several years ago, but the website is still active, and you might be interested in going to there to get a toolkit. And they have scenario-based future initiatives for libraries in particular. So there are 20 different scenarios. If I click on this second one, we can go to it. The assumption is that in 2025, most patrons have a smart device that they use to access content. So each one of these scenarios is then more fully developed when you go into the site. So it gives you some background information and the main points to take away from it. There is the impact scale, the probability scale, the speed that it's unfolding, and then if you wish to leave your name and address in a comment, you may do so for any one of these 20 different scenarios. So in the end of thinking like a futurist, there are various methods that are involved in forecasting, in futuring, in foresight, in backcasting, in planning for the future. And there are many types of forecasters in many different types of disciplines, from the discipline that you are in, to government, to military, all around the globe. And we do need to work together to plan for a better future for all of us. So I encourage you to check out the resources that are abundant in Module 3, to participate in the 2 discussions, and to take the quiz for the badge for Module 3. And I look forward to seeing you online.